stories again. And
welcome to Mixed Bag, January 16, 2023. We are beginning tonight with Beverly Schwartz.
thank you.
Beverly.
Good evening. The story I'm going to tell is from a book. It's called Heroes of Faith. It was put together by over 100 rabbis of stories, and the rabbi who put them together was Rabbi Kaufman. It is a public domain story. Okay. And then I just want to show you one more picture. And these are World War II people on a platform with Nazi soldiers, and they had just gotten off the train. Okay, this is a real picture. When the baton of the Nazi captain. They were on a platform and the train came in. Many, many trains filled with Jewish men, women, and children. Soldiers, open the doors of the train. Let them out on the platform. And the people, bewildered and disheveled, all started coming out of the train with the Nazi soldiers pulling them out when they were slow, and stood on the platform with all their worldly possessions that they had carried with them. Went the captain with his baton. Start walking towards those gates of the camp. Drop everything you have. You won't need it where you're going. They were so scared they dropped everything and they started walking towards the gate as people still were piling out of the cars. And then the captain turned around and there was the Polish people from that Polish village standing there watching as everything was being dropped on the platform. And all the people, all the Jews started marching towards the gate of the concentration camp. And the very back were two ladies, and the captain, which they were waiting to say, were ready to run. You people from the community, you can take anything you want off the platform. These Jews won't be needing it where they're going. The two women knew that they had seen this woman in the last car with a beautiful fur coat and her fur hat and beautiful shawl and dressed with all this jewelry on her. And they knew from experience that if they didn't get to that woman first, someone in the crowd was going to try to get her coat. They nodded, they knew what they were going to do, and they ran to the back of this woman, pushed her on the floor, on the platform, face down, and ripped this beautiful coat off her back. And before anybody could grab it from them, they ran in the back of the train where there was a field, and no one was watching them. And they had made it to the field and laid the fur coat down on the ground. And they started going through pockets. The first pockets were filled with beautiful gold jewelry. Other pockets had beautiful silver and gold candlesticks that they would light at the Shabbos dinner. Oh, and then they thought they had everything. The lady, one of them, picked up the coat. Something's still in here. It's too heavy. And she said, there's a hidden pocket here. And they went and all of a sudden the woman found the hidden pocket and she went in with both hands and pulled out. It was a baby infant girl. She took the baby and it started crying. She put it to her breast and rocked it back and forth until the baby stopped crying. And she looked at her friend, still rocking with the baby, and said, my husband and I have always wanted a child, but we're too old to have one now. I'm going to raise this baby as my own. She will be loved. You take the coat and jewelry. I have my treasure now. And she took it home, and her husband was just as gleeful as she was. He was so happy they had an opportunity to be parents. And they loved this baby. and she had everything she wanted. She did great in school. They sent her to college, and then she decided to go to medical school and became a pediatrician. And she took the job in the hospital in her village, her Polish village, and there she was working. She was having a wonderful life. Many years later, her mother passed away, and she had been sitting all day greeting people that were coming in to visit her. And finally, at the end of the day, she felt, okay, it's been about an hour, no one's come. I think I'll close the light on the outside and just tidy up and go to bed. Oh, someone's at the door. I wonder who it is. Everyone, I think, from the whole town's been here. And she answered the door. And there in front of her was her mother's best friend. And she said, Shayna, which means pretty little one. That's the name that I'm going to call the pediatrician. She said, oh, thank you so much for coming. I was wondering why you hadn't come earlier. And she said, my dear, it's because your mother told me when she died, I had to tell you a story. And she sat down next to Shayna and she told her the real story of how they found her when she was a baby in the coat of her mother. Oh, I don't believe that. That couldn't happen. My parents, they loved me. They brought me up. I was theirs. No, Shayna, you weren't. Your mother said to prove it to you, to take me and you into the bedroom. Find your mother's jewelry chest, and there will be a pendant that was around your neck when we found you, and on a gold chain. She took her into the bedroom, and they found the jewelry chest, and on the very bottom, they found the golden necklace with the pendant. She said, I can't believe it, but I can believe it now. And she looked at the back of the necklace, and there was Jewish Hebrew letters on the back, like that was the name of the child, her. Well, she took the necklace and she made it larger so she could always cherish it and wear it as the only thing that she had of her past life. And she went on working as a pediatrician. She never really gave it two thoughts of, anything about who she was and who her parents were. She didn't give it much thought because she had a wonderful life. One day she went abroad and on vacation, and on the corner there was two Jewish boys on a Friday evening. Candles for sale for the Shabbos, candlesticks for sale. And she was listening to them and said, all of a sudden she said, I have to tell them my story. Maybe they can help me read the letters on the back of the necklace to find out what my real name was. And they went up and she told her story, and they looked at it and they said, well, we really can't help you. However, here's our name and address of our rabbi. He can help you maybe find who your parents were, because they did keep records in those days of who was died and who survived the concentration camps. So she wrote the letter that day, and in a few days the rabbi wrote back to her, my dear, I cannot help you, find your past, relatives or anybody, but there's a rabbinical court in Israel, and they will be able to tell you, they keep records if they can find someone that you might have been related to or survived. Mm-hmm. Well, she decided that she would go to Israel because now her curiosity was up and she wanted to find out as much as she could. So she flew to Israel and met with the rabbinical court. And they worked hard trying to find maybe who she was related to using the name on the necklace. And they couldn't help her. But they said, you are a Jewish girl. And Israel needs pediatricians to help our children. We are short of doctors in Israel. Stay a while, get to know the people. But we would really appreciate you staying. So she said, okay, I'll stay for a while. Well, a while turned into meeting a husband, raising a family, and making Israel her home. Now, one day she was working in the hospital in Jerusalem in 2001. A big explosion happened in the cafe in the middle of Jerusalem. Many, many people were injured, boys and girls and wives and mothers and fathers and grandparents. And they were being brought off to the area hospitals. And they knew that she was a pediatrician at that hospital nearby. So most of the children were being sent there with her staff to help. She was busy all morning long trying to take care of the children when an old man in shock came in. Oh, wait a minute. When I did that, my iPhone went off, thinking I was I fell when I banged on the table. So this old man comes in and he's in shock. And he's a little bloody and stuff, but he's not really hurt seriously. He goes, my granddaughter, she got injured. They told me she came here. Help me find my granddaughter. I need to find her. And the pediatrician came over to him and put her arm around him and said, tell me what she looks like. I can maybe help you find her. So he described her clothes and what she was wearing and her hair. And she has a gold necklace around her neck with a pendant on it. So they went from stall to stall and they looked, and then they found her. And the grandfather went up and hugged his granddaughter, and they both started crying and hugging and kissing each other until they finally calmed down. And they looked, and the pediatrician was still standing there. She was white as a ghost. And she said to the grandfather, where did you buy that necklace for your granddaughter? No, I did not buy it. I'm a jeweler, and I made 2 identical necklaces, each for my 2 daughters. During the war, my wife and one of my daughters were sent to the concentration camps, and they did not survive. My other daughter survived, and this is her daughter, my granddaughter, sitting next to me. And she gave her necklace when my granddaughter was 16 to my granddaughter to wear. The pediatrician slowly undid her 2 blouses and pulled out a pendant on a gold chain, which was identical to the granddaughter's. Now the granddaughter and grandfather looking at her pendant, and then looked at the granddaughters and looked at the Shayna's necklace. And then Shayna stepped forward and looked into the eyes of this old man and said, I am your daughter. You are my father. Thank you. It's a true story. Sorry about the watch. It would have called the police to come and see if I was okay, so I had to shut it off. So
Beverly, thank you very much. I am very glad that you were able to come tonight to tell us that tale.
I wanted to say, yeah.
Go ahead, Asaf, go ahead.
Were you in the middle?
I just wanted to say that I am glad that Beverly was able to come tonight and tell us that tale. Thank you. But go ahead now.
I just wanted to say, Beverly, you've told me that tale one time and I love it. And I'm so glad that you told it again. I finally managed to fix my speakers about halfway through. So I got to hear, but would it all be possible? Linda, would it be possible to have the recording? Beverly, would that be okay?
oh yeah, you know what you can do is look up on the Safari or whatever, Heroes of Faith. It's 100 rabbinical tales of the Holocaust. And it's by Rabbi David Hoffman, and it is public. I here on the first page, you will see shared with public, which gives you permission as a public domain story to retell a story if you see one.
Well, yeah.
Okay, and it's called Heroes of Faith, and you can. I don't have a recording. What did you want?
I was asking you and Linda if it would be okay to have a recording of the story as you just told it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I will do my level best We all can go. I'm not saying you have to. I'm going to do it myself and try to share it with you, Asaf, because you have asked, and Beverly also. Going on to YouTube, SAC's site. I think I'm just going to YouTube, and in my YouTube field, I'm going to type in story, spell out SAC, and pull it up from there, and then there it will be, and then I'll just click share and hope it'll work out.
So it's basically on YouTube.
It's on YouTube, but it might be not quite as easy as I think, but I've succeeded in getting to YouTube before, and I don't remember succeeding in sharing a YouTube video, but I'll give it a go. And I'll keep
I'm sorry about having to shut my phone off when I knocked, my emergency went off, but I mean, I can always send you another video that without that going off, if you want
You
one.
have to get on the SAC. It's their site, the SAC site, and all the videos are listed there. And usually the current ones are first at the top.
Bobby, do you think SAC site is superior to going on to YouTube?
It's on YouTube.
Right.
They have their
Access.
own channel.
Right.
Do you know their channel so I could write it down?
Just storytelling of try
Oh.
S. I don't know what it is right now, but
Storytelling
can-
that?
Vicky,
I can send you the link.
Thank you, I'd appreciate it.
Good.
It won't be on the SAC YouTube for another couple of days, probably.
Yeah.
It usually
No
takes them a
problem.
couple of days, but I will send you the link. I'll write it down.
And I've heard this, I went to a Hasidic Shabbos dinner and the rabbi wife told this story out loud to all of us. And I sat there saying, I have to tell this story, you know? And that's where I heard it first. And I just ordered the book. And from talking to her, she goes, Bev, we need more people to go and tell some of these stories in this book. And I'm so happy you're going to do it. So I just bought the book and I'm going to try to find a couple more stories to tell that reach my heart. Yeah, this really reached mine.
It's beautiful.
I'd
That's
like to hear any
great.
comments of anything because I love to improve it.
I can say something that I found challenging at the end, and I don't have a solution. But it's an interesting question for me that I don't know. I wonder anyone who's got experience with this. When you tell a story, especially when it's a true story, and you're kind of recreating a conversation that really took place. And so I'm wondering how would one portray that in a way that still feels real? Because it's easy, because you as a storyteller weren't the one there, but you are saying something that really was said. There's like this automatic, well, we know this wasn't you, but we want to hear the story. So how do you do that? Do you basically act like the person in the story, even though everyone knows it wasn't you? Or do you tell it with this kind of understanding with the audience that, okay, I know that this isn't me, but so yeah, anyone, please.
Yeah, I have an answer to that before you go. Susan
Okay.
Ida's been teaching me a lot from Canada. And I was going to say, and I forgot it, I begin as a storyteller. I have read the story and this is my interpretation of how to tell the story. So it gives you a little lead way of putting like the baton when, you know, and I wanted to get your attention more and make, you know what I'm saying? However, it is public domain, so you know, you can do that. And I kept to most 95% of the story was actually written that way. The only thing was I gave it a little more drama in the beginning, but they did run, drop her on the ground and tear it off. They did everything I told you. And how she got to Israel and everything is pretty much accurate. I didn't change month, but I gave her a name to make it more personalized. But remember, I told you I did that. I tried to cover myself and said, I'm going to call the pediatrician Shana, which means pretty little one in Yiddish. You might have missed that.
you can, my advice is never put it in first person because you confuse people, but you could say she leaned towards the grandfather and then have her speak saying such and such, and then she
That's a good idea. Thank you.
Part of what
Just
I
don't say said or she said or he said. put a little action in it and then have them, or she stepped forward or she stumbled and whatever. But
Thank you. Thank you. You taught me something today. Thank
a
you.
little secret, writers do it too, so that it's
Okay.
not he said, she said, I said, you say, but don't ever use a first person because the person will think you're that person. It's very confusing.
Okay. Thank you very
And
much.
you're saying that saying he said, she said, like third person's dialogue is okay, you think?
No, people
So
get
no
tired
dialogue.
of it.
So
Make
avoid
a move into the saying of something. Bobby's talking. I can't think of it right now, but you know, she scratched her head. Oh my goodness, that was a really good idea. Oh, laughing, laughing and laughing. You could say it, whatever. I'm exhausted. You'll work it out. It'll come. It'll come.
I'm not totally following everything. Okay.
Well, Bobby, that's I hope felt helpful to Beverly. I think two other hands, perhaps John, perhaps Vicky, were up, and if you still want to say something, now's the time. Andre, sorry.
Oh yes, I really enjoyed your story immensely, Beverly. I had a Jewish aunt who had married into my family. She married my uncle, Uncle Admiral, and it turns out that she was a survivor of the camps,
Mhm.
Auschwitz, and she had like the tattoo on
Right.
her arms. And whenever we went to go visit our uncle, she was like making goulash and like Hungarian dishes, and she would start telling stories about the camps. And then finally she started to write some of the stories down. And later she wanted me to help her edit the stories to make them, put them into some type of shape, because she was getting close to the last decade of her life. So finally she decided, well, I'm just gonna keep the story the way I remembered it. I may not speak English very well, but I'm gonna keep it this way. But eventually she was contacted by the Steven Spielberg's Shoah Foundation, which was going around after the film Schindler's List. They were going around recording the stories of the camp survivors, and she was like one of the people who was interviewed. So she
Wow.
was able to tell her story her way. But one of the things I learned though, watching the film, was that some of the stories that she told on camera to like a student were different than the way she would tell them to family members. It was different from the story she would tell in the kitchen. So I like to tell, I think about telling one of the stories she would tell in the kitchen that she had shared with me, which is not on the Steven Spielberg tape. So it's really inspired me to keep going forward to look at my aunt's Jewish stories.
I think these stories have to be told, and whether you tell it, the way you tell them sometimes doesn't matter, as well as important as listening to what really happened in stories that were over there.
Yes.
Vicky.
Bev, I have heard you tell the story before, and I really enjoy it. It's a very gripping story, and it takes you right along with. Yeah. One of the things you did this time, you didn't do last time, that I really liked was the thing about the baton. I wish you had found, it's hard to find a way to do that so that people see the movement, because you were sort of like this. But I loved the repetition of that, and the brutality of it it just reinforced the brutality. And every time you went back to it, it reinforced that brutality. So I don't know how you would do it up here, but somehow if people could see exactly the violence of the downs. Anyway, that's just my take, because that's such an
wonderful.
important.
Excellent idea. Excellent, excellent. I love it. I will find something. Yeah.
Is there another hand for Beverly?
Oh, can I just say one more thing? You asked about SAC. If you go in your chat, I
Yes.
put the link, just touch that link and it will take you right to the YouTube SAC
Beautiful.
page.
Thank you.
And so just wait a couple days and this will be there.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I just started telling this, really, this was, I had to get off personal stories. I was telling too many of my own, and I had to start fairy tales and folk tales and personal things of other people, history. So I had to grow. I had to kind of expand myself.
We all do.
Yeah.
Wow, lucky for mixed bag. Thanks, thank you, Beverly.
Thank you so much for letting me come. If I fade out and if you see me leave, it's because I have a doctor's appointment at 8. So there's going to be a point, you know what I mean? But
It's
thank you.
10:30
I missed
p.m.
all of you. I really missed all the people in California. I do a lot in California.
No more hospital stays and recovery times.
Oh, I
Yay.
hope not. I just want to survive this new surgery, and then I'm not having any till the fall. It's Humpty Dumpty putting me back together again.
Good news. So far, so good.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
So
you.
I know that two of you at least have a tale you would like to tell. I don't know if that goes for John, but I think it does for Andre and Vicky. Am I correct? May I call on Andre to tell next?
Sure. Am I able to record my own story here?
Did you spotlight him? If he's going to record for himself, he might want it spotlighted.
Got it?
I think I have you spotlighted. Tell me if I don't.
I'm spotlighted.
Okay.
Long ago in West Africa, it was the season before the early harvest of maize, otherwise known as Ugani time. Ugani, the word meaning rice. And because it was before the harvest of maize, there was no food in the land, and the people were hungry and starving, including the trickster tortoise, Mbe. And he searched far and wide from his village in search of food, but he found none. Finally, tired and hungry, he stumbled upon an empty hut in the middle of the woods. And he was tired. Oh, he bent down, he crawled into the hut, and he fell asleep. Now, what Mbe did not realize was that that was the hut that belonged to an ancestral spirit, a ghost that can smell human flesh. And at dusk time, that ghost came drifting back, sniffing the air. And the ghost arrived back at his hut. And he saw that there was somebody inside. And he bent his head down low and looked into the hut and saw Mbe sleeping. But Mbe, he sensed that somebody was watching him, and he woke up and he saw the ancestral spirit. And Mbe, he tucked his head in the shell because he was afraid that this ancestral spirit was going to kill him. But this spirit was a good ghost. And he reached to his rafters and brought down a drum. And he hit one side of the drum. And all of a sudden, Mbe's favorite feast, breadfruit, appeared out of thin air. And Mbe looked at that food and he looked at it. I'm not sure if it's real or not, or this some type of trick, but that looked mighty good to me. And Mbe ate the breadfruit. Now, this went on for 10 weeks. The ancestral spirit would take his drum and hit one side of it, and food would appear for Mbe, and he would eat and eat. And he got fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter. And he also felt guilty. I've been sitting here for 10 weeks eating all of this food. And I left my wife and my son behind in the village. They've had nothing to eat in all this time. I must go back to my family and give them something to eat. Now the spirit said, "Oh, I'm so sorry that you have to leave, Mbe. I have come to look at you as my friend. But before you leave, please take one of these drums with you. And whenever you want some food, be sure to hit this side and not that side. Okay? Hit this side of the drum and not that side." And so Mbe took the drum and bid the ancestral spirit farewell. Now, Mbe was barely out of sight of the ancestral spirit and his hut, but Mbe began to get tired and hungry, and he was also very curious. He took a look at that drum and said, I'm really hungry right now. I got a long trip back to the village. I better have some food in my stomach. Now, what side did he say again? Was it this side or that side? This side or that side? I think it was this side. So Mbe struck this side, and boom, out appeared 7 ancestral spirits. And they had whips, and they had sticks, and they began to beat and flog Mbe. And Mbe was covering his head, and he grabbed his drum and ran away from those evil ancestral spirits with their whips. Now, by and by, Mbe arrived back at his village at dusk, and he hit a big wooden gong, and all the villagers gathered around. And Mbe said, "I was lost in the woods, and I came upon this hut, and there was an ancestral spirit inside, and I could hit a drum, and then all the food would appear." And people said, "Mbe, we don't believe you. We think you are a liar." And Mbe said, "Oh, really? Just test me here." So Mbe got the drum and he hit the right side. And this time, boom, this big feast appeared. And all the villagers gathered around, it's like eating the food and eating the food and eating the food. Now this went on day after day, week after week. Imbe hitting the drum and the food appearing and all the villagers feasting. But by and by, one day, Imbe was not at his hut. The villagers looked and looked for him, but he could not find him. But the villagers did find his drum. And they were thinking, gee, we really is hungry right now. We're tired of Imbe and his tricks. We could do this ourselves. We don't need him anymore. We have his drum. Now, which side did he used to hit? Was it this side or that side? This side or that side? I guess it does not quite matter. And the villagers hit the wrong side of the drum and boom, out appeared 7 ancestral spirits. And they had sticks and whips and they began to beat and to beat and beat the villagers. And the villagers go, oh, 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 trying to get away from these 7 ancestral spirits. Unbeknownst to the villagers, Imbe was hiding in the thicket, watching this whole commotion, and he was laughing and laughing. And Imbe said, they thought it would be all sweetness. Now they will taste the bitter side of the drum. And that was my story, the food drum.
Thank you, Andre.
Thank you.
Did you make that story up?
No, I got it from this superb story book here,
Tales of
Tales
what?
of the Land of Death.
Wait a minute, hold that up. So put it in the chat.
Okay. Tales of the Land of Death. I bought this at a storytelling festival. There was a whole collection of storytelling books, and this was there. I said, "Oh, I could probably tell these here." You know,
Is that basically West Africa or
West Africa, yes.
specifically West Africa?
A lot of my ancestors are from West Africa. I took a DNA test. Oh, so it was like telling stories from my homeland when I tell these stories and share them. This is plus, the big thing I'm coming up soon. I'll be performing at the Alameda Drumming and Storytelling Festival coming up just next month. So I'm gathering stories that have drums in it or some type of percussion instrument. So that's one of the stories I'll be sharing.
There's an old Chinese story with drums in him, but I wouldn't know what it's called.
Uh,
I would know how to tell it. I could
Yeah.
tell it. It's a Chinese story.
Why didn't your drum beat?
well, I noticed sometimes it doesn't have a hard time. The sound has a hard time picking up the sound of a drum.
Zoom.
It doesn't quite
Uh-huh.
work on
Yeah, it's a Zoom problem. As a musician, I know that basically Zoom prioritizes voices and tries to block out everything else, including drums. If it's not a voice, then it gets blocked out. It's theoretically possible to stop it from doing that. There's something called turn on original sound. If you've never heard of that, I could help you out, but it'll take a couple of
Original
minutes.
sound for musicians off. Oh,
Right. If you do original sounds for musicians on, then theoretically it will just let everything through. But you might get echoes that we're already hearing. Noises.
everything.
It creates all these potential problems. If everyone else mutes and you're on and you use sound for musicians, you might get the best results. It's the kind of thing you kind of have to try and see what happens. It's a
Yeah,
risk,
oh.
but it sometimes works.
On my computer, it's up at the top where
Yeah.
you can original sound from, but when I
For-
turn it on, you could hear everything.
Right. You hear everything. But if everybody else mutes, it might be worth it. It's just kind of you try and you see what happens.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Good job, Andrew. I love your expressions and your animations and the way you get the conversation in there. Good job.
Yeah, I'm still working it.
First,
Andrea,
Vicky.
Hello, John.
You are an artist. I just love watching your movements and your expressions and your ghosts looking down.
Yes,
It's perfect.
I can't wait to get back to doing stories in person.
I
Mm.
know. Yeah.
Because we can get rid of the problem with the audio with the microphone, you know. I would just love to get back in person.
Is this your first time to do in person, this coming one with the percussion?
For this particular story, it would be my first story in person.
Since the pandemic?
And I think the pandemic. I did a couple of readings. It was just one reading.
No,
Yes,
it's all Zoom.
it's all Zoom. Yes.
John.
I loved your expressions. I carried it through with your expressions. It was wonderful.
Yeah, I
Good
try to aim my expressions towards the camera and not at the screen. That was something that Larry, the cowboy story, told me about. That. Try to focus more on the camera.
Mm.
Right.
If you look down at the screen, you see people see the top of your head, but you try to focus on the camera. So I try to, I guess, really shine on the camera.
I was taught, look at the little green eye thing, put
Yeah,
maybe
the
two,
little eye thing.
put two little green papers on either side, so you keep looking at the papers.
Yeah, I like to put like a little post-it note above
Yeah,
my
right.
camera that says,
Mhm.
"Mom." Okay, act like you're telling the story to mom. Sometimes I put my mother's picture up there, you know.
I have little faces around the top looking at me. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
John, I think you had a comment.
I don't remember what it
Oh.
was, to tell you the truth, but I do have a story to tell when you get to me, so.
Vicky, do you have a story tonight? Did you raise your hand before?
I do, but it's so rough and so raggedy. I've never told it before, and it's so raggedy and rough. Does anybody else have one they want to tell? Because this is really rough.
I'm kind
Yeah.
of, I could tell one, which I don't think I've told you before, but I don't remember. I don't think I've told you. I could, but not a must.
John, can you wait for Asaf to tell his story?
Can I tell mine first?
Yeah, I would.
Whatever
Would you like to?
order you want to go to is fine with me.
Vicky, I'm happy to hear yours. I don't mind if it's, you know.
Nor do I.
Well,
They're never rough. You think
no,
so
no,
good.
no. This
Let's hear the rough. Let's hear your version of rough, Vicky.
Vicky, do you say yes to telling? Do you say yes
okay.
to recording?
I will, and I apologize beforehand.
Do you want me to not
Forgive
record
me
it?
beforehand.
No, go ahead, record it. It's
Okay.
won't be the first time I've made a fool
Okay.
out of myself. I'm
Vicky
good.
Ness.
The one and the only, Vicky Ness.
I'm gonna put you all on gallery view. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Edith was washing the dishes, the bubbles coming up, iridescent, beautiful dream bubbles, washing dishes. And then she heard it. Oh no, here it came. It sounded like thunder. It sounded like a tractor going across a wooden bridge. It rumbled and rumbled deeper and deeper. Oh, not that again. Well, she dried her hands off, went into the living room, and stared at the wallpaper. Now, the wallpaper in the living room was bucolic. There were little tiny farmhouses and little tiny trees and little tiny horses pulling little tiny carriages. And it was all in the most beautiful mint green. It was so bucolic, except periodically, there would be a gray, grainy cloud rising up in the images. And it would get bigger and bigger. And pretty soon, if you put your ear to the wall, you could hear snorting and pawing and winnowing and all kinds of screeching noises and earth. Well, Edith knew what it was. She ran back into the kitchen to get her Tupperware, piece of tin foil and a rubber band, and came back into the living room, hid behind the sofa and waited. Well, the gray, grainy noisy cloud eventually dissolved to reveal 3 galloping wild horses coming straight at her, right through the images, kicking over the farm buildings and leveling the trees, galloping and whinnying and stamping their feet. And just as they got right to the very, very front of the wallpaper, she clamped her Tupperware on it and slid the tinfoil so that they were inside the bowl. Oh, they were so annoyed. They pranced around and they jumped up and down and they screeched, but she wasn't letting them out. No, sir. She went out the back door. She punched a couple of holes in so the little horses could breathe and took them out past her garden to the woods. And that's where she peeled off the tinfoil, and the horses, having fresh air, would fly out and assume their normal size, huge, beautiful animals, a bay, a gray, and a white, galloping off, rising up into the air, and over the hill they would go and disappear. Ugh, Edith would say, why do they do this? Why did I get that wallpaper? The man who sold me that was an idiot. I hate him, I should sue him. Back into the house she'd go. Well, this happened periodically. Yes, it did. And she would be dusting her little tchotchkes. And all of a sudden the house would start to rumble and she'd hear it again. And here they come, gray cloud forming and all the little bucolic houses getting knocked off and the trees uprooted and more horses galloping, galloping, galloping closer to the very edge of the wallpaper. And damn it, there would have to be Edith with her Tupperware. Flop, flop, flop. Flip the tinfoil in. Okay, okay, okay. Turn it upside down. Out past her garden, out the back door, out into the woods. Peel up the tinfoil and boom, full-size horses would take off into the woods. Well, this got to crimp her style, don't you know? And so people who came to dinner sometimes would have to stand outside the door waiting because everybody knew Edith had what they called horse problems. And they would grumble to themselves, I don't know why she doesn't just get rid of them. And somebody else, somebody a little meaner might say, I would just call an exterminator. Yes, I would. An exterminator would take care of that. Well, eventually the day came when Edith could not get to the living room in time. She was loading laundry into the dryer, and she failed to notice the rumbling and the deep, deep shaking until it was too late. Well, she ran into the living room, but it was too late. They burst through the wallpaper, trampled the sofa, knocked over all her little tchotchkes, railed around and around until she opened the back door, and 2 of them, a bay and a black with a white streak, went flying out. But that left 1 of them. Okay, the dapple gray. Edith chased it. Finally, she grabbed it by the mane to pull, come on, pull it out the back door. Come. Well, it took off with her holding on, screeching, flying behind the horse like a pendant, bouncing as the horse galloped over all the gardens, knocked down fences. And the neighbors came out and they said, oh my goodness, somebody has to do something about that horse. So, hold on, we're going to kill that horse. And that's when they heard her. She climbed on the back of the horse and she said, don't you dare, I'm having the time of my life. And off she went screaming, yippee, and off up into the hills, and over the hill she went and disappeared. Well, the neighbors looked at each other and thought to themselves, I wish I had a horse like that. Take me away from all this boring stuff, the chores I don't want to do, the parties I don't really want to go to, the work I have to do. So they slowly wended their way into Edith's house, and they noticed that her garden was trampled. They came in the front door and the furniture was nothing but sticks and rags. It was a mess. it was entirely in pieces. And they thought about their own perfect gardens, and they thought about their own cozy, neat little houses. And they looked at the wallpaper and watched as a gray cloud started to form. And they looked at each other. And that's when it occurred to them that the important thing isn't what you're fast enough to catch. The important thing is what you have the courage to hold on to.
Oh, that was wonderful.
Thank you, guys.
Could you say the last lines to get again? I wanted to think about them. Say those two lines.
That it's not, this is new for me, this story, so be with me. It's not, what isn't,
The
the
important,
most important thing is not what you're fast enough to catch. It's what you have the courage to hold on to.
The most important thing is to,
is not what you are strong enough to catch.
It's what you have the courage to stay with, to hold on to. And of course, you may lose so many things when you hold on, but don't catch it if you don't want to hold on.
and what's the last way? I got the first, but what's the last line? This is so, this is just mind boggling. I love it.
Write it on the chat.
Yeah,
Write it for us in the chat.
I'll put it in the chat.
thank you. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
That was great.
Wow.
I can't think that fast this time of night.
I know.
But that was wonderful. I mean, it was, I just loved you wrote this yourself, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What a fabulous story.
I'm with Vicky. I'm with
You-
Beverly.
You
Ah,
don't need too much work. It's pretty well worked up. It was good. It was
Yeah.
good.
It was the icing on the cake here.
Oh, bless your heart. You guys are so kind. Now, see, this is why I bring my raggedy ass stories here, because you guys are not mean.
People would criticize you? Oh, I don't think
Vicky,
so.
No,
Vicky,
that's in your own mind. No. That critic is pretty heavy. Woo.
Vicky, I love the face your
Wonderful,
Edith
isn't it?
story tonight puts to tenacity versus longing.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope this is not, I mean, Edith won't stop coming after
Oh,
this.
no. Edith is a regular.
But she's out there and we don't know when she's coming back.
That's the problem.
Well, wonder and tenacity are both very important.
Wow. If
Thanks
we
again.
ever wanted to say that, I would assume we have to quote you in your name as the writer of this, correct?
I don't really care.
Well, okay. If I use it, I'm giving you the credit.
We'll go for it, girl.
And it's
Okay,
not
I will.
copyright. She has to have a copyright on that thing, I'm pretty sure.
You know,
And-
actually, if you tell it and it's recorded, that is your copyright. I took a
copyright,
workshop
okay.
on this.
Right,
Okay.
it is. She's right. Uh-huh.
Technically, it's copyrighted just because it has been recorded. And this is the first time I've told it. So if it goes on the YouTube, then it's technically.
Recorded, okay.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Because people who you have to, I'm learning, you really have to give credit for where credit is due with storytellers.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
you shouldn't repeat anything without giving the credit if that was said by someone else.
I don't want to go into the weeds with copyright, but Vicky, do you have an opinion about US Mail doing what you just said a recording does?
Huh?
It's an old
Yeah,
trick to mail something that you wrote back to yourself, because
Right.
the
yes.
challenge of copywriting is not so much the rights you have. The rights are automatic. I think even if you just tell it to us, it's copyrighted because it's yours.
Yeah.
But you would have to prove if someone told it and you wanted to get the rights back or exercise your rights as the writer, you would have to prove that you wrote it. That's always the challenge. So
And they don't-
here,
yeah.
I'll be your witness. But what people used to do was write it and mail it to themselves, and then they had a date.
Don't
And they could
open it.
walk into a
And
courtroom and
unopened.
say-
Yeah.
But yeah,
You
unopened.
know, when
But
they
it doesn't work.
when they steal from you, they don't steal the whole thing. They steal its and bits, the premise or whatever, so that they don't infringe upon the copyright. They're pretty good at knowing how to do it. So no matter how you protect yourself, there goes your story, there goes your book. So
Oh,
The
well.
letter thing is not legally recognized in a court of law. It won't, it
Yeah.
doesn't actually work.
If the envelope is not open and it goes to a court case and you give it to the judge and he opens it, it proves that you are, that was way long time ago. I don't know about now.
Theoretically, it should, but no, that was a long time ago that I read about this, that they stopped recognizing that legally as viable
Oh, they did.
evidence.
Okay, that's
Um,
good to know.
I'm not a lawyer. For all I know, that may have changed again, or maybe I read it in the wrong place, but I did read that is no longer considered.
yes, it's no longer.
I
Um,
think with so many swaps that it's just food for the pond. It all sort of comes out in some other direction or some other direction. That's
mm.
Right.
Thank you
But I
again,
do think
Vicky.
that, I do think it's good to give credit always if if I tell the story,
Yeah, right.
I think it's just storyteller's etiquette.
well,
Yes,
the
it
option is to tell your own stories.
Yeah. Like Vicky always does.
The copyrights only go back 50 years.
Right.
So,
Honey,
and-
50 years from now, y'all get in touch with me. I'll let you know what I think.
Music is 75 years after the death of the writer.
Yeah, well,
changed it. They changed it.
When did they change it?
Oh, a year or two ago. It's 50
Maybe it's a
now.
year or two ago. Is this something that I tend to
There
look
was
up?
just an article in the New Yorker on that, all these stuff that's coming up out of copyright this year. And it's 95 years.
It
Disney-
is?
That's like
Disney,
thing on here.
Disney got it changed.
Good.
When it was 75 years was coming up, Disney got it changed because they didn't want to lose Mickey Mouse.
Mm.
And so they got the lobbyists, so Disney lobbyists got it changed to 95 years. And then now, of course, there's a whole different attitude about, everything's for free on the net. So like they're not protecting copyrights anymore. So the 95 years is not going to be extended, and that's up this year.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
I actually
hearing
heard
about
that
that.
Steamboat Willie just got into the public domain.
Yeah.
Steamboat Willie was Mickey Mouse's first appearance in the world, was in a short movie called Steamboat Willie, and that little movie is now in the public domain as of like, I don't know, a
Wow,
week or two ago.
wow. And you have to be careful because I just did an Irish folktale and I picked one from 1842. And then I went online and somebody had taken that story in England and wrote their version of it in 1894. And because it was over 100 years or whatever, it is public domain that you could combine both stories and make your own. And that's what I did. But I have to make sure that I say the author and the dates of the original story and the ones that it was a form of that story. So that covers you legally.
Say, Linda, my story includes a bomb cyclone, so it's very topical. So I would like to tell it this month if
Go for
possible.
Good,
All right.
good.
Go for it.
John Petrick, bomb cyclone.
It's
A drum roll.
it's Sean Petrick, by the way. Okay, let me get my
Petrick, John Petrick.
screen up here. How come I'm not getting that? Okay. All right. Well, I grew up in this farm. Whoops. Everybody hear me okay? I grew up on a farm in very remote rural South Dakota. And our big trip was to Sioux City, which was the home of the world's largest stockyards. So I always felt pretty isolated, and I dreamed about seeing the real world where cool stuff happened. And when you were a kid in the mid-60s, all the cool stuff in the world was in California. The beaches, the Beach Boys, Annette Funicello, surfing, all that stuff. But I'd never been past Minnesota, but one year when I was about 11, my folks decided to drive to the West Coast. And we were going to visit one of my mom's friends in Oregon. And then we're going to go to the ocean and we were going to go to California. So mom and dad packed all 8 kids in a brand new Ford station wagon and we headed out. I don't remember much about the way out, but one thing I remember was Union 76 gas stations. We didn't have Union 76 in Midwest. Most of them were Standard Oil. But these Union 76 gas stations, they were giving out these little styrofoam balls with a hole in it and a 76, and you could put them on your car antenna. And so we saw all these cool cars going by with these 76 balls, and we just thought that was so cool. And we were begging Dad to go to the fill up at the 76 station. And he finally did it. And not only did he get one of those little balls, they also had a promotion where you got like a beach ball with the 76 on it, orange beach ball. So we finally get to the ocean. We never been to the ocean, of course. And I'd never had a beach ball before. So I was going to get to go to the beach in California with a beach ball. I was going to be just like a real California kid. Well, of course, Dad wasn't going to drive the 700 miles from Oregon down to Southern California. So we did get to the California coast. It was probably up by north by Crescent City or something, because it was cold and it was windy and it was cloudy. And we shivered down the dunes and we got down to the beach and we were the only ones there, except for a couple surfers way off with their wetsuits on. Well, I blew up this beach ball and batted it to my sister, and the wind took it and it just started heading down the beach. And I was running after it as fast as I could, and it just kept getting away from me. Finally, there was a little lull in the wind and I got the beach ball. And then, well, back in those days, we didn't know about bomb cyclones, but just as I got that beach ball, the barometer just dropped and that beach ball just started getting really light. And then a gust of wind came up and I was just propelled into the air. And I wasn't going to let go of that beach ball because I had traced that for a long way. But pretty soon I was so far up, I couldn't let go. And I could look back and I could see my parents back on the beach, and I saw those surfers down there, and one of the guys went off his board and his board was flipping in the wind. And anyway, then I was in these dense clouds and I couldn't see anything. And then I dropped and I hit water. And I looked around and I wasn't in the ocean. And then the clouds lifted and I could see that, well, I was in what we now call an atmospheric river. And it was beautiful. And there was water everywhere and it was very pristine. There was just hardly any garbage or anything that had blown up except me. And there were some stingrays jumping. They had gotten swept up by the wind. And then all of a sudden behind me shoots up this bright yellow surfboard. I went, wow. And somehow I was able to grab it and still hold on to my beach ball. And I took my beach ball and I took all the air out of it and I stuffed it down in the swimming trunks. And then I got on the surfboard. And it took me several tries, but pretty soon I was standing up. I was a regular California surfer. And I was just having the time of my life. There wasn't really any waves. It was just kind of a few swells here and there. But I was a surfing. And then after a while, though, my legs started to get kind of tired and shaky. And I hit a couple swells in a row, and one was a little bigger, and poof, I go head over. My surfboard goes up in the air, and the wind takes it, and pretty soon it's like 50 yards away. I swim as hard as I can, but I can't even get close to it. So I laid on my back and I blew up my beach ball. And I just carried my held my beach ball in front of me, and I just floated in this atmospheric river. And I looked off to the side and the clouds had kind of lifted. I could see the ocean was pretty far to my right, and I could see a big mountain, that snow-covered mountain to my left. I started realizing, am I ever going to see my parents again? Am I going to be floating on this river forever? And look how high I am. I'm almost up to the top of that mountain. What if I fall out? What's going to happen to me? And I was cold. I was hungry, and I just started to cry. And then suddenly this big styrofoam cooler blew by. It's like a big one. And I was able to grab it, and I put my beach ball in there, and I was able to crawl in. All of a sudden, I was no longer struggling, and I could just ride along. I couldn't steer anymore because I didn't have my feet in the water, but so I was just riding along with the winds and the currents. And this went on for hours. And I was missing Mom. I was even missing my sisters. And I just kept kind of drifting over toward the left-hand side of this river. And all of a sudden there was another break in the clouds, and I could look down, and I was a lot closer to the ground. I could see I was going over a city, and there was like this big white building, looked like a state capitol or something. And I just kept drifting to the left side, and pretty soon I could see all the way down through the river. I could see the ground below, and then poof, it dropped. And I got my beach ball, I put it underneath me, and that cooler just hit the ground and crashed into 1,000 pieces. But my beach ball, it acted like an airbag, popped up in the air, and I came down, and I was in some water. And then when I came to my senses, I could see I was just in this little flooded backwater area in this residential neighborhood. And there was my beach ball floating next to me. And I hugged it. And I got to the shore, and I walked to the nearest house. And there was a nice lady there, and she was pretty surprised to see this 11-year-old shivering kid in the swimming trunks. And she took me in, and she gave me hot cocoa and some warm clothes and blanket. She called the highway patrol, and highway patrol hooked me up with my parents. And I got to talk to my parents, and my mom was crying. And then the lady fed me, and several hours later, my parents came, picked me up. And when I got back home, people would ask me, well, how was California? And I'd tell them this story, and nobody would believe me. So after a while, I got to the point where I just gave them a standard Midwestern response. How was California? Oh, not so bad, you know, could have been worse. Thank you.
Wow, it was good to be able to stay late and hear that story.
Yeah, it's a
You
great
had me
tall tale.
laughing.
Very
Oh,
apropos.
John,
Yeah.
are you in the genre stories? I think they're tall tales.
Yes,
Yeah,
tall
no,
tale.
I'm not in. Dave
Okay.
Tarvin from Sacramento is our nominee this week.
Got it. Okay.
So Vicky, did you win the Tall Tale Sacramento Liars Contest last year?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I was trying to think of who that was. So somebody
No.
had a very imaginative story, and obviously you have very imaginative stories.
Vicky brings up a good point. Genre is soon. It's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
But unless I misread an email from SAC, probably Mr. Roberts, or maybe
Okay.
not
Yeah.
Shags, but the man who loves to travel. I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. If there's an opening, And Mixed Bag, I know, does not have anybody going to January genre. Could I contact you, John, or are you not available? It's probably too late, but
Wednesday night, I could be available, but
The
yeah,
18th.
I don't know who's the MC for that one.
Good question. I should know.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, I have all that in my email somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
What date is it?
It's
It's
Wednesday,
Wednesday?
January 18. Probably
me
Yeah,
see.
it's
7.
Oh,
Wednesday.
it's coming in 2 days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised if there was.
But it was less than 4 days ago that an email went out
Oh, really?
But
that did not say
asking,
it was good. So
You know,
under the category of it never, no stone unturned, watch your email, okay, John?
Okay.
That would be a great story to tell there,
yeah,
John.
Timely.
Yeah,
And you had me with every motion.
yeah, good, good.
I've
Good.
I've been battling with the ending. I don't know what I should do with that, whether that's.
Oh, good.
That ending works.
You started out realistically and you ended realistically, and then all the rest of it's a kid sitting there playing and having a good time. Yeah.
I want to ask John if he's listened to very many tall tales. I've only listened to Bill Lepp with one L in Bill. But it
Not
feels
really,
to me
not
like you've
really. I
really
told the story at the Liars contest
Ed-
last year and listened to some Bill Lepp, and that's really all I.
Ed Lewis tells a lot of tall tales.
Ed
Yes.
Lewis. That's
Yeah.
whose name I was looking for.
Ed
Yeah.
Lewis.
Was it Tim Kringle who a Choctaw that came and told just a hilarious tall tale, like a liar's tale, at the storytelling festival, probably back in like 2015 or something. It must have been a while ago,
Huh.
but it was hilarious.
Asaf, was
Absolutely.
it set in the Midwest? Where is Tim Tingle?
It was on a plane. I think
In
it's
the South.
he's from, oh, so I think he's from Oklahoma or somewhere around there. He's Choctaw, and
Yeah.
so he's got, he's got all his stories. But it was set on, I think, just some nondescript airplane that he had to catch. But it was absolutely hilarious, really, really funny.
Go
Anyway,
Tim Tingle.
yeah.
Go John Petrick.
There
Mhm.
was
Go
another,
go bomb cyclones, but not on me or us in real time.
Got a break today.
Yeah.
If so I am a member of the California, so I know Liz has me telling a fairy tale in June, but if your group has to need someone, I am a real member for 2 years now. I'm
Oh,
gonna be-
Beverly, I thank you for reminding me of that. I
Yeah.
don't, do you remember the genres? I'll try to email you the genres and so you can choose one if you want.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm the only one Liz asked me to do June, but no one else in any other group has asked me, maybe because they don't know I'm a member. But I
Okay.
am, this year and next year.
So out of curiosity, I got the feeling that some people did remember those orange styrofoam antenna.
Totally, totally.
I missed them.
yes, yes.
Okay. We may or may not have time for another story. I think, Asaf, you have one, if I'm correct, am
Have
I?
one if you want. It's not a long story.
We're only at 8:20 and I am happy to stay and listen. And others, if they must leave, are of course welcome to do
Give it a
so.
shot. I haven't told it in a
Yeah,
while.
I'm gonna leave early every time, but I can't. With this group, I should just seem to like it to listen,
No,
more. and
this
more.
is great. So,
Yeah, it's really fun to listen.
Asaf Ophir.
I apologize if I yawn.
Right. So you may or may this is kind of my elaboration on a Jewish story that at least in Jewish circles, I think is relatively well known. But it starts with a character whom you might have heard of. His name is Choni, and he's known as Choni the Circle Maker. And just to kind of present the character, he was kind of a bit of a craze, a bit of an eccentric guy, but also known to have his connections. A famous story about him is that it didn't rain. There was a drought for a very long time, and this is how he got his name, Choni the Circle Maker. No one could make it rain. Everyone was praying for rain, and at some point they decided they would ask him to do his best. And so Choni the Circle Maker drew a circle around himself and swore up at the sky that he would not leave that circle until it rained. And it didn't take long before it started to just slightly drizzle. And Choni the circle maker looked up and said, oh, that's not enough. I'm not leaving for that. And so it started to really, really pour. And then Choni the circle maker said, oh, no, it's a little less than that. And then it became just the perfect rain. And he was like, all right, that's it, exactly. And then he stepped out of the circle. So a funny character, but also a mystic. So Choni the circle maker was walking up the street, and the story goes that he saw a man on the side of the road who was very old, white hair, wrinkles, you could almost not see his eyes, they were so squinted, and a beard down to the ground, and he was planting a tree. And Choni walked up to him and said, what are you doing? And the old man said, well, I'm planting a tree. It's a carob tree. And Choni said, carob trees, they take decades before they give any fruit. What are you planting this tree for? You'll never see the fruit of this. And the old man said, well, I'm planting it so that someone after me might have it. And Choni was sitting there and thinking, and as he was saying this, someone ran right past him. And Choni looked to the right and he looked to the left, and another person ran right past him. And another person ran right past him. And Choni just stopped this third person and said, what are you guys all running for? And this man said, oh, the Messiah is here. The Messiah is here. Come there. And he kept running. And another person ran, and Choni said to the old man who was planting the tree, the Messiah is here. Come on, let's go see him. And the old man said, oh, I'm going to plant this tree. And Choni said, are you crazy? What are you planting a tree for? Did you hear what I said? The Messiah is here. You don't need to plant a tree. Come on, let's go see him. And the old man said, I'm going to plant a tree. So Choni left him there by the side of the road and started walking over to where its huge throng of people was gathering. And Choni could see that there was a stage, but Choni, being Choni, decided that he wasn't going to walk from the back a mile away in the nosebleed section to see the Messiah. He was going to sneak closer to the stage. So he went around the side, he went into a ditch, he found this little staircase that went right up to where this whole throng was gathering. He crawled up the stairs and he found this guy there, and this guy was like, wait, come on, and pushes him out, and he's on the stage. And in front of him, there's thousands of people, and they go wild. And Choni's standing there on the stage. In the middle of the stage is a microphone with a spotlight, and he's looking, and the crowd is nuts. And he looks behind him and he tries to run off the stage, and the guy standing at the door is like, are you kidding me? You're out there now. And Choni goes back out to the microphone and he taps it. And the crowd silences, and you can hear a pin drop, and everybody's just waiting to hear what he has to say. And Choni kind of looks around and says, hi. Everybody goes wild. And then they quiet down and they wait to see what else he's going to say. And then Choni says, you know what? Things are going to change now. And everybody goes wild. And then they wait to see what he's going to say. And he says, well, yeah, we're going to start being nice to each other now. And we're going to do good things. And we're going to help our neighbors, and we're going to plant trees. And then he stops. And then he thinks. And he says, yeah, and you'll excuse me, I have some work to do. And he walks off the stage, and the crowd goes wild. And Choni goes to find the old man to help him plant a tree. Thank you.
Thank you, Asaf. Oh my gosh. Wow. Comments?
Wait, sorry, I'm mute. I love the way you told the story and your expressions, and who you were fit the teller that should be telling the story.
Yes.
Oh, thanks.
I love the timing. The timing.
Yes, but the speed.
Yeah.
It rises up and then it goes down, and then it rises up and it goes down. Even
Yeah.
with the runners, the same thing.
Yeah, the runners going past.
Yeah.
It's great.
Very thoughtful, very thoughtful. You had to keep up with what was going on, and it's kind of a mystery, you know, it was wonderful. It's
Yeah.
short and wonderful.
Asaf, you really did restrain yourself in an exaggerated way. I've never seen such a combination before.
What do you mean? I'm curious.
Yeah, you, I was with you the whole time, and I always felt like I was on a diving board or on a trampoline where I could go higher or farther or faster or safer or something. And yet you contained it in a way that your character was believable and relatable.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me.
Very cool. Thank you. I was wondering about what Bobby was saying earlier about the first person, because I always have a tendency to say he said and she said, and so I always go there. And I feel like I should try to edit that out. But
There wasn't a lot. There wasn't a lot of it. You didn't notice. I didn't notice. Sometimes you notice those things, but
And if you pair it with an action, like Bobby said, he grabbed the third man and he said, it's all part of one sentence. It doesn't
Yeah.
start, he said.
Right. Okay, that makes a difference. My fear is when I go into dialogue, my
You're freezing up.
won't understand what. Oh, hello?
Asaf, are
Hello.
you still in Marin? Are you having PG&E trouble? Because you did freeze once, but you recovered.
I'm in Marin, yes. Is that it? It's
Well, I don't mean to accuse Marin, but my sister's up there and she's getting all kinds of energy troubles.
yes, yeah, we've got a lot of woods and I don't know. Power lines in the wrong places. I was saying that my fear going into a dialogue moment is always that people won't be able to tell who said what.
Mm.
I always
well, you
feel
can have
obligated to like say, or he said, and then
you can have different voices, low voices,
different
high
voices.
voices,
right.
fat
I'm always
voices,
afraid that
small
I'm gonna
voices.
botch that up. Yeah.
No,
Also
you
different
won't.
expressions.
No, you won't. No.
Right. Well, thank you.
So do we have anyone, Melanie, speak up if you would like, who wants to still tell a story? It's getting late and I'm thinking it's about time. But I will stay. I'm very glad so many were able to come tonight. Thank you.
It's been quite an honor. Thank you.
Really good stories. Very good.
Wonderful
Very good.
stories. Excellent.
Great, so many are back. So maybe we'll
A
see
round
you.
of a round of
Round
applause.
of applause.
Round of applause to everybody. With many circles tonight, and your background, Asaf, for your circle man was just so appropriate.
Oh, that was not planned, but that's cool.
Very
Point.
nice.
I'm all rounded. My sharp corners are rounded off now, thanks to you all. To February.
I'm guessing at
Okay.
least one person here knew that character and maybe the story before I told it, right? That's just the story of the man planting a tree and Khoni the circle maker. Did anyone hear about that before? Okay.
Go, Vicky.
It's a great story. I love it because it doesn't go where you think it's going to go.
What
This-
story is it, yours or
The original story is Khoni the circle maker was walking down the street. He saw a man plant a tree, an old man, and he says, "Why are you planting that tree? You're never going to see the fruits of it." And the old man said, "Well, my parents planted trees for me, so I'm planting trees for my children." That's the whole story. And then I just kind of took that and threw in the Messiah piece. But that little snippet of that story, I think, is relatively well known. If like in the Jewish story circle. So anyway.
you for my story, you can go online and they have some of the other stories. You don't even have to buy the book. The stories are online and they encourage people to read and tell them.
Mm.
You might find something that touches your heart.
I'm curious to find more stories about Khoni, about that character, because I don't think that that's the only story about him. That and the rain are the only two I know. I don't know if he appears in other places.
Mm.
It's kind of like a Nasiruddin of sorts.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right, Nasruddin. Okay, does anyone need a reminder to grab things off the chat? I'm sure there are more elegant ways, but I don't know.
question, you meet on, what's today, Monday?
Yes.
Monday, the 16th.
Monday.
You meet on the first, second Monday of the month or what?
Third.
Always third Monday.
Monday? Okay, I want to write that down. I'll put you on now so that I don't book something, you know what I mean? Third Monday.
By
Third
the way,
Monday.
Linda, have you heard anything from Renu?
No, and I've been meaning to contact her. I'm very worried. What if she's sick? Beverly was, and I didn't contact her. So thank you
I
for the
tried-
remind.
I tried to contact Renew and she hasn't answered my email either because we wanted to do the fairy tale in India, the tangent, and she hasn't
The
I don't know.
cavalcade, what's it called?
it's called the Eggshell, Brewery of Eggshells. And we
Oh.
wanted to tell it in her group because, you know, it's like a children's story. And maybe could you email me her email? Maybe I had the wrong email.
Okay.
And we've been waiting for Renew to get back to us. We
I
just,
know, I haven't heard from her in a while. But she
Could
used to
be
be
the
part of-
weather.
Wow. Cowtail switch. Vicky, you're like the child in the cowtail switch who asked after dad.
if you could put it in now, I'll copy it so that I can have it and I'll resend the email to her. And I'll tell her everyone's been wondering about her too.
You know, my keyboard's not set up well tonight. My fingernails are too long, but I can do it and I will email you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All
Any
right.
last words from anyone? Oh, God. Any final words?
Thanks.
Welcome,
everybody.
Melanie. I'm sorry I didn't see you, but I hope you come back. And with that, we'll sign off.
So thank
Well,
you all.
My cat's been watching this all night.
Next month. Goodbye.
Bye.
Good night.
Goodbye.
I was playing peekaboo with him.
What's your cat's name?
Bye.
Dave and Michael.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Well,
he's
I'm glad we got a bigger audience and with fur on it too. It's a fun.
Thank you so much. I'll see you.
Thank you,
next
Beverly.
time.
I can't believe you are a night owl, whether you know it or not.
I know I am, but this is
Thanks.
getting late.
Okay, here goes. Here goes.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Stay healthy.
You same.
Okay.